Good morning, everyone. How are you? So, yesterday was a really interesting day because actually after I posted my message on, breakthrough, this functional medicine doctor who contacted me, I then, once I got off the call, I had another message from another doctor, not functional medicine, but also sort of hormonal, anyway, kind of keto geared. And so I thought, very interesting. Because I myself, when I started on this journey, 3.5 years ago, I was hoping to find a doctor that would be open enough to work alongside with me, and I didn't. And so let's see what happens. But I thought it's very telling, and I actually really admire the people that, especially the person that I spoke with, because I can only imagine how difficult it is. As much as I've had a lot of anger towards doctors because, they've led me down so many wrong paths in the past, but I also do have compassion because I can only imagine if I go through all those years of schooling and educating myself from who I believe to be, rightful sources of information. And I built my whole business model, and not just the business model, but I built my whole reality on those teachings, only to then, years later, and again, and I always say, because it's so easy to then go like, oh, but it's not that everything that they teach is wrong. And no, it's not, of course not. Nothing is ever 100% right, nothing is ever 100% wrong, but there's pieces missing. And on the other hand, we are all constantly evolving and learning more. But yeah, I just imagine how difficult it must be when you've built your whole business model and then you need to kind of revise, because all the products that you've got out there, all the information that is out there is not wrong, but is only the limited truth. So anyway, for me it was a nice breakthrough, and what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of testimony to the fact that this is the way. And as I always like to point out, it's not that this is the way forever, because the forever way of healing is realizing that we always have all the tools that we need right at our fingertips, and that healing is so much easier than we have all made to believe, and that it is our birthright to live in completely healthy and vibrant bodies. And what I see, especially with my private clients, where we dive deep into emotional blocks and mental blocks, and it's so easy to go, oh well, it's all emotions, and what does it mean? But it goes so much deeper than that, because so often our block to healing is emotional. Most of it is emotional, but emotional is also, well, it's such a blanket statement because it goes so deep. Oftentimes we don't even realize how deep these emotions, which are really mental constructs that we have grown up with, that have been part of our lineage, and that really, I feel like an eyelash, that are so intricately part of our being that we can't see it, we can't feel it until we slowly unpack it. And so this is the miraculous journey of finding our way back to our true nature and to realizing, wow, we are infinitely divine and wise beings that really have everything at our fingertips that we need to completely heal. But in order to do that, we always need to let go of old constructs and old paradigms. And I feel, you know, of course, the physical aspect of detoxification is hard, or it can be hard at times. But ultimately, you know, that's the least hard part of the journey. The hard part that I have found for myself, and I repeatedly see with my clients, and I see it in this group as well, is the mental and emotional shift. Because what this means is making deep, deep contact with our bodies and trusting that these bodies are incredibly resilient and that we can, you know, push and pull them in all directions as long as we're connected to the doing that we're doing. So, you know, like I remember during my first fast, which was definitely the most physically challenging, there was a time, it probably lasted about 2 weeks, where whenever I would turn just slightly and fairly, you know, normally, sort of the way you turn your head, the whole room would start spinning. My whole inside was spinning. It was vertigo times 100. And initially, obviously, you know, it freaked me out completely. And then I thought, oh, maybe I'm doing wrong. Maybe I'm damaging my body. Maybe this is not for me, you know, and all these emotions and questions that start arising. And then I just sat with that feeling and I felt into, okay, what is, because knowing what I know, knowing all the work that I had done, it's like, okay, no, let's feel into it. And by feeling into it and sitting with that, it was really the nervous system and the body, because again, it's we never work with just one element of ourselves. You know, we cannot just work with the nervous system. There's always everything else attached to it. It's our soul, it's our being, it's our ego, persona, etc. But essentially it was the nervous system that was sort of, you know, pulling my attention towards itself and saying, you need to learn to recalibrate, you need to learn to move and operate your whole being, meaning not just your physical, but your mental, spiritual construct, from a new level. And so I felt into that, and what it was asking me to do was to really completely slow myself down. And so for those 2 weeks, I almost felt like I was operating from a slow motion, you know, kind of qigong, moving very slowly. And when I did that, I could move, no problem, without the spinning. But the minute that I sort of lost touch with myself, basically, and I would just mindlessly move around, the spinning would come back hectically. And so ultimately, what an amazing teaching. For me, that was one of the most amazing experiences, because it really taught me to stay connected. The message came, whenever I was disconnected, come back to yourself. Where are you? Where is this whole being? You know, maybe the mind wants to be there, or the ego wants to be doing other things, but first, we need to always work with the weakest link, because unless the weakest link is working and integrated in our whole being, we cannot operate from our fullest and highest. So, and many other healing crises like this. So actually these healing crises, which is kind of what I wanted to talk about today, are the most misunderstood part of the detoxification process, and also the scariest, because we can have all these crazy symptoms, these crazy experiences, and literally they're limitless. You know, there's about 3 pages. I'm going to look up that document somewhere. I saw one of all possible symptoms that you can experience while detoxing, and some of them sound really, really scary, you know, down to feeling paralyzed. And I have communicated with people that have experienced that for a while. And so of course, you know, our normally trained mind is, no matter how, you know, esoteric we might be oriented, but still the human trained mind, when that happens, does go into panic and go, oh crap, what's happening? Am I damaging myself? Am I, you know, doing something? Am I now taking it too far? But what I've learned through this process is to always, obviously, you know, I've also seen people push themselves too far and do crazy ass things, like push themselves through a dry fast when their body wasn't ready. You know, so that's where you need to have some discernment and keep on checking, okay, is this the ego now pushing, you know, or am I really pushing from a love space? And sometimes it is hard to tell. And sometimes, you know, we also need to make those mistakes so that then another time we know better. Or I've seen people, you know, guzzle down things like turpentine, which turpentine has its place. Not for everybody. It's not a necessary, it's not a, you know, it's not the thing that, you know, you might be missing. It might be working for some people, but, you know, I've heard people guzzling it down, and well, that's never a good idea, you know, like more is more. So, you know, do things within reason, but ultimately, in my experience, we can really trust our body fully. And that when we fully come from a level of trust and deep love and deep honoring for our body, then we form a deep, beautiful relationship naturally of trust, you know, and the body will respond. Whereas I realized in the beginning of my journey, there was, you know, that there was the trust, I trust you, but I'm scared. I trust you, but I'm not sure. It's like, well, which one is it, you know? And so my body reacted accordingly, and there was a lot of movement that was jerky, and I didn't feel fully confident in my body, but that was part of the learning. And so you inch along, and then you retract a little. But the great learning about the going through the healing crisis is really that it's the healing crisis that teaches you. It's like an initiation, and everybody will have a different healing crisis. And everybody's healing crisis will feel different, will have different symptoms, and will bring up different emotions. And so it's a little bit like it's your personalized recipe for ultimate embodiment and for finding your ultimate purpose. Even for me, at least, it was, you know. And as much as before coming to cellular detoxification, I had done a lot of work, which I'm sure helped, you know. I mean, it of course it helped doing all the personal work. I'd done, you know, 18 years of personal work on myself, and process work, including 12 years of deep medicine work. And for many, many years, I thought that doing sacred medicine work was the beginning and end of all of our troubles. And I always say, you know, doing the deep medicine work certainly has served me, and it has helped me hugely in my understanding of myself and the universe and my place in it and our bodies and spirit and so forth. But everything, all the teachings that I received in the medicine work really came together, became embodied in my being in a much more solid and real way once I started detoxing, once I started working with my physical body on a day-to-day basis. And for me now, it feels like going through a fast and going through the whole, you know, detoxification process and playing with dry fasting and fruit fasting and, you know, the whole enemas, etc., is actually like being on a 24-hour medicine journey privately, because everybody will have a different experience. And so like now, even though I'm fasting with my husband, he has a different experience. So whereas on a medicine journey, you can at least have a shared experience oftentimes. Yes, there's still different nuances, but ultimately you're on the same medicine. And here, even though you're on the same medicine, everybody will have a different experience and go through their own motions. And so it's like being on a medicine journey 24 hours. And on top of that, it's as if you are being retreated to your own cave, but you're still living amongst, you know, everybody else. And I really like that metaphor, because I have my cave with me at all times. And from there, I can learn to operate anew in this world, and I need to sit with all my emotions that arise in the different moments. And every day there's a moment where I think, I can't do this. It's enough already. And where I squirm, and, you know, and then of course, and there's a part that wants out, that's looking for an out. And then there's the wise part that knows where is there to go, you know. Even a bite of food will only help you in that little moment. And then what? So then you go, okay, I'll sit with this. I'll squirm around and I'll sit with this and I'll feel it all. And then there's moments where you don't want to feel it all. But those are the little nuances that out of that, you arise anew. You arise with new strength, new insights about yourself. And sitting with all of that is hugely uncomfortable, because it is relentless. It's a 24-hour process. Even during my sleep, not every night, but a lot of nights, I feel my mind is active, and it's as if it's completely running its own show. And in many ways, you know, I've learned to let it do that, to go, okay, whatever, you want to run your monkey mind, go ahead, I'm going to sleep, you know. And so it kind of feels almost like I'm asleep from here to here, but this mind is like and churning and planning and programming and doing. And that's the monkey mind. And so there also, you know, it's a beautiful observation and a beautiful teaching, because, and then every now and again, maybe I'll wake up and I go and I catch a thought or an idea, and then I let it go. It's like, okay, do I want to continue this? Do I want to spin it further? Or do I just let the monkey go and do its thing until it's tired? But I'm not going to play with it. So that's like, there's, you know, there are so many compartments going on here. You know, up here is the meditation compartment, and here is just the heart space, the raw heart space of feeling everything, of feeling all of our existential fears and yeah, you know, all of our existential what do they call it? Angst, which is fear. So yeah, that to me is the beauty of this process. You know, it is like you're on your own little retreat, and it's staying with it is the only solution. And I do get it, you know, initially it's easy to then fall under the illusion that by eating something we will make it better, you know, or by listening to the mind that tells you, you're not free if you don't eat, you know, you're free to eat, so why are you stopping yourself? The mind has all sorts of trickeries, and learning our trickeries is the way to understanding ourselves. And it ultimately, what we need during the fast is the understanding, or we need a big why. You know, we need to know, why are we doing this? Like for me, you know, and I said this before, but I'll repeat it because there's always new people. This fast for me feels a lot less physically demanding. And what's also interesting is that I feel like I'm losing weight a lot slower, which, I mean, for me now, you know, I don't have any attachment to how much or how little weight I lose. It's like, whatever, you know, the body, I trust the body. But it's interesting to see that I lost a lot more weight quicker in my first and even in my second fast still. Second fast was slightly slower. So clearly the body is getting stronger, but I lost my point now. What did I want to say? Anyway, do you have any questions? Is there anybody that wants to ask some question? Hi, Asman. Nice to see you here. Hi, Dawn. Hi, Eureka. And hi, David. Yeah, anyway, if you have questions, please feel free to ask. Maybe I'll remember my point. It's gone, which is also fine. Clearly it wasn't that important. But yeah, stay present to the process. And, you know, for those of you that are fasting, and for those of you that are detoxing or that are new to this whole concept, yes, I suppose the body's pretty clever and has been here before. Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I also see it with my children, how they instinctively, they want to fast. And, you know, sometimes they wake up and they go like, Mommy, I'm going to fast. And then, you know, 5 hours later, they'll be eating. So they're inching their way along. But then other times they do fast actually for, you know, 3/4 of the day. And it's just that seed that is there. So where the human body knows we don't need food all the time. We're not certainly not meant to have 3 meals a day, and certainly not, you know, like I was doing at some point, I'm sure all of us did it, the 6 meals a day story. So yes, I guess what I wanted to say, I don't know but what comes up, you know, is like the mental conditioning is the biggest part on this journey. Because as we journey through the detox, as we journey through the cleaning of our bodies, like I never thought that I would end up, certainly not so quickly, where I am at today. So if you would have asked me last year at this time, or if you would have said, by next year, Alex, you're going to be eating 80% fruit happily, I would have said, never in a million years. Maybe in 10 years' time, but not in 1 year. And so this wasn't planned, you know. I really felt like I was going slow every now and again. So I would go back and forth. I would still have some cooked food. And again, I always say it's not that cooked food is bad per se. My whole understanding of nutrition has changed through this process. And you must remember, I used to be so big on macros and, you know, my whole supplement cupboards, and the more the better, and the superfoods and the tonics and the da 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 da. I had it all. And I was, you know, very, everything had its place, and you need this, and then you need that, and you need your protein, you need your fat, and da-da. And now it's like, I know that all I need to listen to my body. And I need to listen, is my body clean enough to tell me what it wants? Yes, now it is. Because my previous cravings were not cravings that were truly dictated from a body saying, this is what I need. This is what I like. Because there's need and like, and both are valid, by the way. You know, it's not just that we have to live like monks, only the little bit that we need. No, there is room for enjoyment. I mean, it's all meant to be enjoyable, in fact. You know, if it's not bringing you joy, then don't do it, then scale back. But it has completely unhinged me from any idea of nutrition as a whole set of rules around vitamins and minerals and fats and proteins and amino acids and all of that. And the fact that my body is still getting stronger and stronger, and that I am building strength and muscle, tells me that it's working for me. And for somebody else, it will be slightly different. And for somebody else, slightly different. And so that, for me, is the beauty of this process, and also what I teach and encourage my clients to feel into constantly is honor where you are at. Hi, Carrie. Always honor where you're at. And also always keep in mind that just because today you feel very firmly that this is your truth, it may change completely in 10 days' time or in a month's time. And then honor that, you know, whereas we've all been indoctrinated in, you know, you're either paleo or you're keto or you're raw vegan or you're fruitarian, and you need to be in a box. Whereas, how about we get rid of all the rules, of all the thinking, and we fully trust our body, and also allow our moods to dictate what we desire. And then when we give into that desire, to be present and aware to how satisfying that desire feels. How does it feel on a mental, emotional level? And then ultimately, how does it feel in the physical? How does it feel a day later and 2 days later? Because that is how we learn. And that is how we learn to eat specifically according to our body. Obviously there, you know, and that's why some coaching is needed initially, because it's so easy to, you know, it's so easy, for example, at the beginning of detox, it's so easy to go, you've detoxed, and then all of a sudden you get, and it's normal, you get cravings for high fat or protein. Yes, sometimes it happens, but high fat. And then also there, it's so easy to, you know, when you're in the middle of a healing crisis, for example, if you go and eat high fat, if you're being on high fruit or mostly fruit, some greens, and then you go have a healing crisis and you eat high fat, what happens? You immediately feel better, so much better, on a physical level and on a mental level. And so it's so easy there to say, you see, I was missing the fats. The fats are the good thing. And it's like, no. In that case, the fats are simply stopping and cushioning the detoxification process. So of course it feels good, because it stops the detoxification process in its tracks, because fat is heavy, it gets stuck in the lymphatic system. And so it cushions everything and it quietens everything down, and you're able to feel good again. Sometimes it has its place. Like if we've been detoxing really harshly and rapidly, then I will say, yes, add a little bit more fat, slow down the detox so that you can emotionally kind of catch up to what's happening in your body. and come to a new status quo, and then we can go and dig deeper. So that is where then again art, detoxification becomes an art, because it is a dance. It's not a linear, it's not like a normal diet, which we all know don't work, that you sort of blast through and then you're done. Here we are never done, because also we are, hi Hannah, we are always evolving. And so, like recent, I'm from Italy originally, so when I go and visit my family, what I've noticed, like the last time, is that in Italy, like in a big city, or even when I used to be in fashion and travel back and forth, Milan, Paris, in those hectic cities, I could not be high fruit. I needed a little bit more grounding foods, because to ground my energies. And ultimately, the truth is, I needed those heavier foods to dull me, to just not make me feel, because these crazy cities were overwhelming, and they are overwhelming for, a human being that is fully in touch with all the energetics. And that's why when we walk around, and for me it was really apparent the last time that I went to Milan, I was so aware of everybody was just so in their, my doing and me. There was no openness. And I remember asking for direction to a couple of people, and they literally like shushed me away. It was like, kind of like, well, I don't have time for that. Who has time to give somebody directions? And I was so shocked, but at the same time I could understand. I hadn't been, here in Cape Town things are so chilled. Yes, it's a city, but it's actually very zen. And so I hadn't been used to that kind of energy anymore. And I realized when you're living in that sort of energy, inevitably you need to buffer yourself. And so you need to numb down, and you need, the numbing food to become numb, and you need the coffee to give you the pull up and to keep you going. And, then you use food to kind of manipulate you as you need, and people do it unconsciously. The nice thing is to become conscious of that. Wow, I would not like that place at all. Yeah, no, it's hectic, and I realize even Paris, as much as, yes, I loved Paris, but 3 days of Paris, sure, there I was also working, I'm sure I could do a week with my beloved, but 3 days Paris working was enough. And so that is the craziness of the world that we live in. And it's all good. It's just, let's become aware of that. Because once we have the awareness, then we can still choose, because I understand. If I have a client in LA, then I need to work with her in a certain way, depending on what she does and how she lives. I need to work with her differently than with a client in Cape Town or with a client that lives in Utah. So there are these nuances that we need to respect. So I don't want to make this too long, and unless you've got questions or things that you would like me to speak about, I'm going to hop off now. But please, if you have questions, if you have, anything, whatever, it can be, about nutrition, about how to serve you better, anything is welcome. Because as I'm now building my website, any help, any input on how I could serve you guys better would be welcome. Yes, a month in London set my health back just from the energy compared to my tropical Zen life in Byron Bay. Yeah, wow. Byron Bay, I haven't been to Byron Bay yet, but I would love to come and certainly meet you, Hannah. And I can fully relate. For me also, I realized, as much as I used to operate so well in that old world, I no longer could, you know. And on the other hand, it's also, I'm not saying, you know, it's not for everybody. My calling was to come to Cape Town to learn everything that I have learned, to go through everything that I've gone through, so that I can bring this information out. And I always like to say, you know, it's not like I sort of really chose this. It chose me, as it happens to all of us. And so how wonderful that we can, you know, share and learn from each other. So I will love and leave you. And I actually love doing these videos in the morning, especially after my yoga and meditation practice. Maybe one of these days I'll do it from the beach, so that you can see our beautiful Cape Town beaches and start enticing you to maybe come for a beautiful retreat at some point. Lots of love to you all, and I'm here for you with whatever questions you may have, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.